Hi, and welcome to Teaching and Learning at MICA Syllabus Design. So today in this session, we're going to talk about the focal point for so many hours of preparation as a faculty member, the syllabus. We will start with asking the question, what is a syllabus? Continuing with the hidden curriculum, considering metacognition in the classroom, and how to embed prompts that support students' thinking in your syllabus design, considering each section of the syllabus, and we will end with a link to some additional resources. So the first thing to think about is, how do you answer this question? What is a syllabus? Many people might come up with a contract. It's a schedule. It's a set of rules or guidelines. It's an agreement between the faculty member and the students. What if we thought about the syllabus as they suggest in the TFL Institute blog when they write, a syllabus is the first act of teaching. It's an opportunity to show what's possible and what is needed to get there. A syllabus is a description of goals, a plan for scheduled content, and information about grading. It's obviously a companion piece to course design and then as well overall curriculum design. From another text about syllabus design and language teaching, Noonan wrote, "In considering needs and goals, we should keep in mind that the teacher's syllabus and the learner's syllabus or agenda might differ. One of the purposes of subjective needs analysis is to involve learners and teachers in exchanging information so that the agendas of the teacher and the learner may be more closely aligned. This can happen in two ways. In the first place, information provided by learners can be used to guide the selection of content and learning activities. Secondly, by providing learners with detailed information about goals, objectives, and learning activities, learners may come to have a greater appreciation and acceptance of the learning experience they are undertaking or about to undertake. It may be that learners have different goals from those of the teacher simply because they have not been informed in any meaningful way what the teacher's goals are." So, are your expectations clear and explicit? What assumptions are you actually making? What is it meant by the hidden curriculum? This is additional barriers in deciphering and adapting to the implicit expectations of higher education. While the hidden curriculum affects all students to some extent, its impact is disproportionately felt by first-generation students, multilingual learners, non-traditional students, and individuals from lower socioeconomic backgrounds who often encounter these unwritten expectations and find themselves blocked or stymied or intimidated. The hidden curriculum is knowledge that we as professors who have succeeded at higher education and achieved various degrees were taught at some point in our educational experience. In fact, part of the hidden curriculum might begin at the very point from day one with, what is the purpose of a syllabus? So as faculty, we need to make sure that we're very clear that it's a guide and an anchor for our students. We want students to know where the syllabus lives in our learning management system. We want them to refer to it, not just on the first day of classes, but frequently throughout the semester. Another aspect of the hidden curriculum is that we need to make sure that students understand what it means for faculty to have office hours. For each 3 credits, faculty at MICA are expected to have 80 minutes or an hour and 20 minutes of office hours. Making sure that students understand that you are not being bothered by them popping in to see you or sending you a request to have a meeting during that time. Office hours are time set aside in your day for students. You're there for them. Be sure to highlight these hours on your syllabus. We need to make sure that students understand how to access resources that are available on campus. These are tuition-funded services that are there for them. The writing studio, the health center, the library, academic advising, just to name a few. Resources are only as useful when a student begins to engage with them. Make it clear on the syllabus how to access these student-facing services. We need to support students in knowing when and how to ask for help. It's important that we share when a student reaches out for help, that they understand how to ask for support without oversharing. This is when you need to consider cultural context and expectations you might have, not always realizing that these are tied to your own culture and how you were raised. Make it clear how to address this type of outreach. Suggest a subject line. Draft a sample email and include it in your syllabus. Another part of the hidden curriculum is how to work in a group. We can't just assume that everyone knows how to do this type of work successfully. As teachers, we need to structure and discuss expectations and support them throughout class. We can use the learning management system to facilitate group work, sharing documents and sending messages, and by doing so, build accountability and model behaviors. Think about this when you're creating your schedule. Build in time for group work in class. Don't just rely on students figuring it out on their own outside of class. Another area is time management. How can we model time management? Make it clear on your syllabus if you'll accept late work and how it's graded, if you'll mark a student late, and how that impacts their attendance. Help students understand the schedule in your class for each day by sticking to a routine or writing out a plan on the board for timing during class sessions. Be clear about breaks and when classes start and end. So how can you mitigate the hidden curriculum in syllabus design? Well, first, check your language. Really try to gauge, is it at a level that doesn't feel like it's being exclusionary? There are readability checkers you can use to review your writing to check grade level and sentence structure. If there are expectations that you have for them for their time in your class, you don't have to put that in language that makes the student feel like, I don't even understand what this teacher is saying on the very first day of class. So after considering your language, checking your design, and thinking about the way the words are on the syllabus, either on paper or on screen, is there too much text? Is it too crowded? Thinking about accessible design and using formatting tools that work with screen readers is a good place to start. There are many different people whose jobs are to support students in ways that are in tandem with us as faculty. So by planning and support, you can make it easier for students to get help when they need it. Plan to bring in support services into your classroom as appropriate. Think about the writing studio, the library with information literacy or research consultations, career development, student academic success, and plan sessions into your syllabus or leave some flexibility in your lesson planning to add them if necessary. Support our professional staff partners by making sure that students know when you're referring them to a resource such as student academic success, student outreach and support, the registrar, academic advising, or student counseling center. These are not punitive referrals, they're positive. One additional aspect of working to mitigate the hidden curriculum is to help define and facilitate metacognition, helping our students think about their own thinking. And we can start that process by considering our own metacognitive processes. For faculty members, we can consider these three frames when we're considering our approach to syllabus design. What do we know about how we think and approach our work as educational professionals? As teachers, how do we get from input every day in our class? What do we get from that input? And what are we sensing from our students, and what are they sharing with us? How might we need to adapt what we are doing in the classroom? Do we make space for that in our syllabus design? The timing of our teaching of new concepts, spacing out assignments, giving ourselves time to review and provide feedback to the students. We want to know what our own abilities are. Part of the metacognitive development is knowing what are your strengths and weaknesses. Finally, we want to consider our practice. What is it that we do in response to input that we're receiving? So a core question in our syllabus design is, have we created a syllabus that is structured yet flexible to allow for input and adaptation? This is from a book called Metacognition and Learning. Teaching metacognitively, which involves teaching with metacognition and teaching for metacognition, is critical for learners of any age. Teaching with metacognition enables teachers to gain awareness about and control over how they think and teach by planning, monitoring, evaluating, and adjusting their instructional goals and teaching strategies in accordance with their students' needs and sociocultural context. Teaching for metacognition enables teachers to design instruction that will develop and activate their students' metacognition, enabling students to be aware of what they know and do not know by engaging in reflective processes, and to take actions to address flaws or gaps in what they know by employing self-regulation strategies. Take a look at this visual. A person has a task and a strategy being a plan of action. When a student's given a task by you as the professor, all of these various aspects of cognition and metacognition are in play with one another. Does a student know how they learn best? Metacognitive knowledge is what you know about yourself and how you learn, how you best interact with materials, how you can set yourself up for success, how you plan, monitor, and assess. Developing metacognitive knowledge is an ongoing process that changes as we engage with more materials and experiences through time as lifelong learners. Think about the difference between a first-year student and a graduating student. The way they approach reading and interacting with a syllabus changes as they develop more insight into themselves, as they better acclimate to expectations of academia at a college of art and design. And part of that has to do with their own maturing sense of how they learn and how they self-regulate, which is a result of their experiences, including the support that they receive. A student has metacognitive experiences that they have in their memory. What went well, what didn't go well during a particular learning moment, but they also have real-time experiences of what is working and what isn't. Teaching students to reflect on this and self-regulate, respond and adapt to improve their engagement and learning is an ongoing process. Students have their cognitive goals, such as staying focused, understanding materials, maintaining organization, that are supported by strategies, chunking materials, activating prior knowledge, visualizing materials, and managing their time, for example. Here's another visual that breaks down metacognitive development. At first, a student might not even be considering the way that they think or considering the way that they're taking action in their learning process. They might not have any strategies that they can draw on. So they might actually have very limited engagement in the learning process and be very passive. As students develop emerging awareness, they know that they need to start paying attention to how they think and how they engage in the educational experience. But maybe they don't take any action or engage in a strategy, but they're starting to notice deficits or they have concerns. As metacognitive awareness develops, they recognize patterns about their own learning. They start taking some action and they might have strategies to rely on. So they have increased engagement in the learning process and they have a desire to improve. And eventually, advanced awareness is when a student takes appropriate actions because they're aware and they have a range of strategies to support their learning, and there's significant engagement in that process, along with a cycle of continuous improvement. So, how do we take metacognitive approach to our syllabus design? Let's consider each section of your syllabus. In the text of your syllabus, how can you use language that engages and lowers barriers? Consider running your writing through a readability checker. Aim for a 10th grade reading level. As we mentioned earlier, part of the hidden curriculum is academic language that doesn't draw people in, but rather makes them feel excluded. Think about abbreviations, acronyms, or vocabularies that are specific to your discipline. Do you need to build out a vocabulary section on your syllabus to help students new to the area feel included? Another area to consider is, are you making your expectations clear? One way to do this is to share your grading breakdown. Consider creating a visual representation of that breakdown. Do you grade on participation? And if so, how? Do you drop the lowest score on a set of assignments? Do you factor lateness into grading? Do you allow for late assignments at all? For participation in class discussion, presentations, or critique, how do you support and require active listening? Consider how you support the multilingual learner and how you make it clear in your syllabus and grading. What's your expectation for AI engagement, including generative AI and other services like translation or grammar support? What materials are allowed in class? Computers, phones, headphones, knitting, drawing, etc. What will happen if you're sick or if school closes unexpectedly? Do you have a Zoom link in your syllabus? Note all of these things in your syllabus. In your syllabus, you can let people know how you will manage change. How can you modify while maintaining learning outcomes? A great way to model cognitive flexibility for students is to pre-plan for when things might not go exactly the way you expect them to, or when people need space and time to do things differently. When creating your schedule, consider building in buffers so that you can shift deadlines without significant disruptions if the need arises. Be realistic about your turnaround time with grading and feedback, and keep this in mind when staging the cadence of assignments. Make it clear what your students can expect from you as far as timeliness, at least as much as you're willing to commit to on the syllabus. Some other ways that we can support students' metacognitive development is to think about how you can help students activate prior knowledge. In the syllabus design, what signals to them to consider what they already know? Will you require pre-engagement on a reading assignment, or have students ask questions about a skill or method being introduced next session? Will you ask them to bring a journal with some reflection done before class begins, or to gather materials in advance? You can also build a step-by-step planning into your class goals or class schedule. Ask students to have a set of goals to share on a certain date in advance of their midterm project. Add a row in your schedule that asks them to schedule a meeting with their advisor, with a research librarian, or with a student academic success coach or the writing studio to support a project, essay, or research. Finally, as we have walked through how to consider most of the sections on the syllabus, we end with the most fundamental aspect of the syllabus.